Are we live? Sure. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ETTelecom's live sessions. Today, we are going to discuss the enterprise opportunity for telecom operators in India and why there is a need for telcos to look beyond traditional connectivity aggressively. And we are going to discuss the needs of enterprises, the increasing needs of verticals and various enterprises. And to discuss this, we have Mr. Abhijit Kishore, who is Director Enterprise Business of Vodafone Idea. To give the telcos perspective, we have Mr. Pierre from Nokia, and he's the CTO of Global Enterprise and Public Sector. We also have Kapil Mehrotra, Group CTO of National Collateral Management Service Limited, and Dr. Vijay Chaudhary, who is Assistant Vice President of IT at Royal Orchard Hotels. To give a perspective on the changing needs of various verticals and their demands for connectivity and beyond. So let's begin this session with Abhijit. So my first question is to you. In the current context of the ongoing pandemic post the lockdown, where the digital has already taken prominence, and we are seeing that digital transformation is getting accelerated. And so what are the identified opportunities in the digital technologies that you believe are emerging, and how, as a telecom operator, Vodafone Idea is gearing up to tap the opportunity in the country?
Yeah, thanks, Danish. First of all, to be part of this panel. As you rightly said, I think the telecom has been, to my mind, the bedrock of the business, and more so for the enterprise business, if I can say. And now in the challenging time, for a couple of quarters that if I see the business imperatives, the way it is changing, and telcos are kind of keeping pace with that. If I will just take you back, probably, when we, a couple of years back, there was, and we internally really refer to as a BC, which is before computer era. And then there was an adapting digital era. And now what we call as the AD2 which is where the digital has really become an imperative. And it's an adopting digital era. And that's what we call an AD2. It all started, as you rightly said, with the connectivity, with a reliable connectivity. Over the last few years, it's really in the last few quarters, after the pandemic has hit, it has moved into a space very rapidly, what we describe as collaboration, what we describe as cloud, what we describe as IoT. Not that these services were not there earlier, but the change that we are seeing is very evident. And if we were to really look at this, we can really put that into two perspectives. One clearly for the large enterprises, and the second is for the smaller and medium enterprises. And the needs are pretty well defined and are very distinct. And we at Vodafone Idea, are really playing across the spectrum, whether it concerns the basic connectivity where we all started, to the collaborative tools, whether it is in conferencing like this, or it's call recording, or it's auto receptionist, moving into a larger space of security now, with the managed security services, SDN. So it's really changing very rapidly, and we are really cutting across all the segments. And are offering services, which is really what is need for for the enterprise customers. What the opportunity that I see is clearly, is in the field, and that's the way the industry is really moving. And from a telco, we are trying to become a techco in keeping pace with the changing needs. And if I were to look at a clear opportunity, I think from a large enterprise point of view, IoT, cloud, SDN and SD-WAN, these are clear opportunity that we see, and we can talk a little more about that. And from a smaller and medium enterprise point of view, I see an opportunity because they are still in a phase where they need to be, adopting to digital. So there, how do they keep pace with what's really happening? So it's the entire landscape has really changed. It was any which way pretty fast, along with the Indian growth story. But last 2 quarters has really seen a very significant pace of change, Danish. Sorry, Danish, you're on mute.
Sure. So my next question is to Mr. Pierre Tonisov from Nokia. So you already work with a lot of global telecom operators. You have seen their journey towards enterprise domain. How has that landscape changing? If you could give us some perspective, which are the use cases that are coming up, and which are the technologies being adopted by telecom operators to serve the enterprise needs? If you could give us the sense.
Absolutely. So first, very happy to be with all of you, even if remote, speaking from Europe. So Nokia, I think our vision really resonates with the one of the previous speaker. It's all about digital automation. So bridging IT and OT capabilities. So we Nokia come from the OT world with some mission critical IP, but also with some critical voice applications enabled by the telco networks. And now it's all bringing this together and combining people and IoT workflows for more flexibility, more security, more efficiency. So the vision we have is really the one of horizontal platforms that really can serve as many verticals as possible, but also to be very relevant for given segments. And so it's really working in 2 dimensions. And this is really what's happening with our telco partners to rebuild, I would say, horizontal platforms, which are really now combining this IT and OT values, but at the same time being very focused and relevant for the various verticals we are serving. So in terms of platforms, I'm sure we will elaborate a little further, but you have mission critical IP, you have SD-WAN, and now private wireless is the big world in the industry where telco have a big role to play, which is sort of mission critical wireless for enterprises and their operations. On top of the connectivity, you have more and more distributed cloud, a mix of public, private clouds. We can also elaborate on this. And then you have digital automation platforms, and those platforms are a sort of middleware that support really the segment use cases and the business applications, which are relevant for certain domains. So our mission, I think, in life now is to provide open platforms to our service provider platforms and partners, and other partners, so that you can unleash this vertical value. I will just name a few segments, and then we'll give the floor back to you, where we are already very relevant, being utilities. So all the renewable world, now with private wireless, with digital automation, we can really enable more and more use cases, especially for renewables. Then there is other examples in transportation, like ports, airports, where really you have, maybe with the COVID effect, airports is more quiet than it used to be, but it will come back. It will come back, and you have this scale effect, like in ports, where automation really enables the fantastic economies of scale. And then, of course, you have the industry 4.0 target. We can speak about it, but there you really need to build ecosystems. And I think India can be a very strong industry 4.0 ecosystem. So it cannot be, let's say, a one-player game. It needs to be really many actors, let's say, partnering together to develop the new use cases.
Sure. So my next question is to Mr. Kapil Mehrotra. So he has experience of working in a healthcare domain, and now he's working in a domain which is like supply chain logistics. So Kapil, how do you see this whole need for connectivity changing, and I'm sure you have a better idea how what sort of infra we have and how the demands of companies in your sector is changing. If you could give a sense if the network is absolutely good, or if the demands are not being properly catered to, if you just highlight those things.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Danish, for calling me here. This sector is very unique sector where I'm working on. So this is related to the agriculture, um, wherein we have a lot of warehouses actually. And I like to discuss one particular scenario which will be gives you the perspective actually to understand better. So we have more than 600 warehouses all across, and they are in a deep in a rural areas and urban areas and all. The problem is like we want to track our commodity and the utilization of those warehouses, and if they are in a very deep areas, the problem is that the network connectivity is very poor in those areas. So we need a kind of a technology we can support us, and we are having everywhere we have something, but we are fail to basically continuous monitoring. Other part is, one is the utilization, other part is the monitoring also. So like we want to basically detect the intrusion in case anybody is trying to enter off the hours in the warehouse. So how do I basically get the alert? So we have a CCTV motion cameras, they are detecting all those things. But for that, again, you need a network, right? If they are not on a good network, then it is a problem. Monitoring 600 warehouses is not a joke. Actually, it's a very difficult job. Then you need the intelligence which can keep updating you. And in case if you cannot get the proactive information because of the lack of network or something else, then it is a problem. So this is one of the scenario. And other side, Danish, like we have a other vertical which is running fully on a network, which is our weather intelligence. So we have installed all across the sensors, right? They are gathering the weather information, and then they are feeding back to the server, and they need a good connectivity. Server needs a good connectivity. If the good connectivity is not available, so whatever information, whatever data they are gathering, right? Like moisture, soil, the wind, right? This kind of information, if we are not able to gather on time, we can't predict it. And a lot of agencies, they are looking for this kind of information. So we don't have any I mean, apart from the sensors, we have drones, we have satellite images which are coming continuously to us, and they are so heavy. Sometimes they are so heavy, they need a very good connectivity. Otherwise, the data cannot be transferred from the one center sensor to the back in the server. For that, I need a very good. So these two are the very critical problem statement so far I have seen it. And since like people are around from the Vodafone and Nokia, I think they can understand my problem, and probably we can discuss in a length actually. It's a two. So that this is what is my perspective to set the tone, Danish. Uh,
Sure.
yeah.
Right. I totally understand. So on that on connectivity note only, I would like to seek Dr. Vijay Chaudhary's perspective, because in hospitality domain, we know that once you enter the hotel, the connectivity is something, or Wi-Fi connection, that you typically ask for, and that is one of the things that is typically mentioned during the reviews online when you check for the hotels. So, Mr. Chaudhary, do you want to add to it, like how the needs of companies or hotels in the hospitality domain are changing? What are your demands? Are telcos better equipped or better placed to address your needs? If you could give a sense on that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Danish, and good afternoon, everyone. So, adding to Mr. Kapil Malhotra's views, I would definitely add from the hotel industry perspective, like you mentioned, that as soon as the guest is checked in a hotel, what he will want is first the Wi-Fi password. He will not ask for the water. He will not ask for the tea or coffee. First, he would need the Wi-Fi password. Means you can see that how important, means the priority of the service today, if you see in hotel industry, is a Wi-Fi service, if you see. So in a hotel industry, what we actually offer to the guest is not only Wi-Fi, but if you see in-room technology, like uh, to predict the in-room technology for the 2025. So for example, we are placing a lot of devices in a hotel room to actually create a good infotainment experience for a guest. So for example, Alexa is latest addition in the rooms, thermostat controllers, mood sensing devices. Even we are actually seeing that the trend towards the keyless entry in the hotel room, wherein a key will be available on a mobile through NFC technology, and the guest will be able to enter in a room without any key. So all this kind of experience, if you need to create for a guest, is it requires a very strong infrastructure in terms of telecom infrastructure where you can enable these kind of services. So today, what we are talking about 5G spectrum, which offers 2 Gbps connectivity services. But what is our actual experience in hotel industry, that we are still struggling for 4G even signal in a lot of places, even in metros. So what our actually priority and call to the telecom providers like Vodafone, that let's have a continuity in services and kind of the experience can be really increased for our guests. Over
Sure.
to you.
Sure, sure. So Abhijit, so a lot of questions on the connectivity part, which is industry-wide, not specific to one telecom operators. Do you see that now telcos are gearing up to serve the enterprise needs, or is it now the most important focus area, which is why in times to come we could see some changes in terms of the approach taken by the telecom operators to address the concerns or the challenges faced by the verticals?
No, I mean, absolutely. So see, the crux of what Kapil is saying, or Vijay is talking about, is really lies in the solution, and probably that's what Peer was also addressing. So one is a basic connectivity part of it, and then on top of that connectivity is a solution, and how do you really architect the solution? So I think, as far as the connectivity is concerned, which is a basic hygiene, obviously it's a must-have, should have. So I don't think that's a question that that's really bothering us from that point of view. The moment like in Kapil's example, when he's saying you have 600 warehouses, and how do you really make sure that the solution works? So it's not really only about a connectivity. It's connectivity is definitely the most important thing, and plus then there is the IoT devices, then there are devices, then there are software, then there are an application, and that's the domain that we are now getting into. And when I say that one is moving from a telco to a techco, that's exactly what we are really referring to. So how do you and see in a today's scenario, I don't think any one player can really do the entire value chain. So the whole philosophy that at Vodafone Idea that we are trying to do, whether it is cloud or whether it is IoT, that one, how do we provide an end-to-end service to the customer, like in case of what Kapil is talking, or or in the hospitality industry, and connectivity is only one part of that. There are devices, there are applications, there are software. So how do we really own that and have a partnership model, which in a manner makes it a marketplace? And that's the space that we are really getting into. So completely agree that we need to have the connectivity, but that's the most basic thing, and that should be there. But how do we really move the needle? Because that basic connectivity is not the only requirement. If you really hear from what Dr. Chaudhary or Kapil is saying, so that's where we are. And when we look at so that's one part of it. The second part, probably what what both of them were referring to, is when you're doing all of this, that's the basic connectivity. How do you provide a security onto that? Because then there are customers who are coming and staying. There are users. There are the large enterprise with the employees. And in today's days and age, 60-70% of the large enterprise is working from home. They are all accessing the office network through their own houses. How do you provide the secure connectivity so that that part is secure? So those are the real challenges that we have today, and we are like we just kind of launched very recently a managed security services. So, we've done, from a software-defined network, what Pierre was talking about, how do we really manage and give the scale that earlier, it used to be a hardware which used to govern the whole business. Now, how do you move it to a software? So those are the spaces, and solution that we are really working on. IoT is a clear example. I mean, whether, you look at utility, like what Kapil was talking, we covered probably, we are by far the largest guys as far as the connected car in the ecosystem is concerned. Most of the cars which are coming out of the factories today are connected on a Vodafone Idea network, and it's not a plain simple connectivity alone. I mean, it's also getting into a managing. How do we manage their infotainment? How do they manage their own thing? We have also very recently launched something called India's first eSIM. Typically, in an IoT scenario where you put the SIM card, you can't really rehash the SIM card because you need to get the SIM back to do any upgrade. Now, the eSIM that we have launched, very recently, those updates can be done over the air. Now, imagine a situation where connected car is moved out of the factory. You really can't get a car back to kind of fix that. So those are few of the solutions that we are really working on, and we are, as far as the IoT and connected car and utilities are concerned, we are clearly the leaders.
Sure. So maybe I would want Mr. Pierre to continue and add his perspective in terms of the technologies and the collaboration with telecom operators to serve the enterprise needs. If you could give some examples also in India as well as in global markets, that would be really great.
Maybe, yes, I can start with an example, maybe in mining, because this is a space which I think is also a key segment for India, but we started in Australia with the big names like Rio Tinto, and now we are all over the place, including in Latin America, in North America, etc. And by the way, the one example I will give, I think, is in partnership with Vodafone, so it's very close to some of you. But you are very modest, Abhijit, when you describe the connectivity, because I think connectivity already brings a lot of differentiation for these use cases in itself. We are in these mines. We are replacing Wi-Fi or some bespoke wireless connectivity. And really, with 4G connectivity moving to 5G, you already have a very robust platform, and the way you can cover these critical sites with a few radios from the telco network is absolutely unique. You have better robustness, better penetration of obstacles, better everything. And then based on this radio technology, which is really, I think, a unique ingredient, you need to develop the ecosystem. And this is really, again, together with telco service providers, the value we can bring, because it's not just a handset. You need to integrate into trucks so that you can gradually start to build automation scenarios. So you have these big, huge trucks which you can remote control from thousands of kilometers away using CCTV cameras and the like. And of course, very key sensors. You can have safe personnel also devices to check that all your workers are in safety zones and not running into danger areas, etc. So it's completely changing the way the operations is performed. But then it needs really to interwork with the people who are building the trucks, with the people who are building the devices, with the people who are building the operating systems, etc. So this whole digitalization, which is really bringing value, and actually in some cases where now we sort of replicate what we have already rolled out in other places, the return on investment is very fast. It's like less than a year. So this is really totally changing the way operations are done.
Sure.
So this is one example, but again, you can go airports, you can go ports, where it's a little more specific is transportation, because you, by definition, like roads and trains, you have these long distances. So there, either you go really with a commercial telco network, but they need to be a very, very strong SLA from the telco to provide this coverage along highways and with some critical attributes if you really want to run operations along the highways. And this is coming. Or you have, some bespoke technology like you had for trains, you had GSMR, which is now going also 5G. So it's also a place where there can be partnerships with telcos, but this is then really embedded into very, very critical systems for safe operations. So this is a little at the extreme of, let's say, what the private wireless can bring. But for the rest, you have really now with 4G, enterprise-grade platforms that can be easily replicated in many, many verticals, like said by Abhijit.
Sure. So Kapil, you talked about a couple of use cases and the need for connectivity, but Abhijit also talked about security as part of the managed services. Do you think that the relationship between telcos and enterprise could go much deeper, and security being one of the areas, and other areas could also be there where telcos could help you in companies like yours in the digitization, digital transformation journey?
Yeah, that's true. See, security is one of the aspect everybody needs it, and of course, whenever we will look for any solution, telecom solution, we definitely require security. You talk for IoT and you talk for any device, a wearable, everything requires security because it's transporting the critical information. And as I have given the example of a warehouse where we are looking for utilization, and someone just let's extend this scenario where someone is in a market and like he's having a lead there and he wants to book the space, right? And he's trying to book the space. So he needs the information on the fly. And that on the fly information has to be secure, right? Because both that side, like I'm fetching information from the IoT device to the software where like I can see the current status, and then I'm updating back that information to the IoT, right? And there, the other side in the warehouse, the IoT device may be your RFID, your any particular device which you have chosen, barcode, or maybe LiDAR cameras, right? Which are now these days people are using it. They are best technology available. And now in some of the cases, I'm using a telecom technology people are using along with the cameras. That's a LTE, right? That is very much designed for the areas those are not on a network. To bring those areas on a network, people are basically created a solution on a LTE so that like uh, your network should work like a broadband, and then it can be basically have the better connectivity, right? Like a 5G and 4G, so that your data without any problem can be transferred. So when we are looking for the LTE kind of technology and other side like LiDAR and other stuff, everything requires security because today in today's scenario, people are ignoring the security factor in the IoT devices. And that is very scary scenario because most of the devices in the market which are available IoT devices, I would say like they are not 100% secure because either people have not thought about it, encryption level, because the more you put the technology there or encryption there, they will becomes a very heavy intensive, right? So then there will be a problem. So there are a lot of challenges. I mean, but there are other ways to secure it now these days. There are technology available which can basically give you the secure transaction through that, like you can fulfill all the requirements. So this is one aspect of it. And other thing is like you have to have look into the data also, as like Abhijit also mentioned, you have to basically look into your application and other stuff as well. I totally agree what he was saying is because you cannot basically blame it on any one particular thing, like it's not working out for the telecom, but you have to look at the other aspects, server aspects, application aspects, and the local network aspects as well. Similar thing applies on a security aspect as well. you have to look at your application criticality, what data they are transporting it, because then you have to segregate your application in a way. If really something is requires security, right? Some information, let's say PI information or PII information kind of thing, it's required security. Then definitely you have to build a solution accordingly. That then your IoT device or maybe solution will becomes little expensive, right? Are we ready for that as well, or at the organization level, at the enterprise level? Because it's not only one place we have to implement, we have to implement at the 600 places. Then volume will be higher, right? So then you have to think from the investment perspective as well. And or other solution is probably you can classify your information in a way, then you can face manner implement the security, right? Reason is because if you classify information, okay, let's say phase one, it's fine. Like once you experience that, then probably gradually you learn, and then you learn the pitfalls and then move on. This is what is my thought process is, because we should be very clear whenever we talk for any security solution. There are ample of solutions are available, but we should first of all, as an organization, enterprise, we have to look at the requirement first and then go for the solution. That would be the better case.
Sure, sure, sure. So, Dr. Chaudhary, in hospitality segment beyond connectivity, we know that certain IoT use cases are being developed. Would you share some information like how do you see the hospitality segment trading in terms of development of those IoT use cases and help of telcos, which is needed to enable those use cases?
Yeah. So I will add the security aspect also that Kapil has spoken, because in a hospitality industry, what we are taking, a lot of information of the guest, and today we are talking about the contactless check-in, right? Say, for example, guest is coming to hotels, and he would not go to reception; he will directly go to his room, interacting with all contactless options there. So in that case, the security aspect is very important for us when a guest is checking in, going to the lift and then going to the room and is interacting with the door with NFC codes and then going into the room. Then he is ordering F&B contactless on his own mobile that he wants some food, water, everything. And then we are capturing his likes and dislikes, online. So all these things is actually running on the very strong infrastructure platform, which is backed by the telecom operators. And there we need a security. Means today what we are dealing with the different vendors to ensure that we are secured and we are actually creating that kind of confidence in our guests. So that case, yes, in when a telecom operator is coming up with a convergent platform offering various kind of services on a one platform, it is going to help us. Second is like you asked about IoT use cases. That, so for example, in hotel industry, we have a very big use of the IoT in terms of when a lot of equipments today are coming with the IoT enabled functionalities like in kitchen, in our gardens, in our swimming pools. So it requires a lot of data exchange between the devices. So what happens is that when we have a very good infrastructure in place, the uninterrupted connectivity, this happens actually in real time. And when we are capturing this information, you always need a kind of, today we are living in the data age, data science and analytics and artificial intelligence capabilities, while we are actually storing a lot of data when our guest is in the hotel. So we have also spoken, I think Abhijit and Perry has spoken about that kind of capability when they are actually bringing from telecom to techno, right? So this is what actually the expectation from hospitality industry.
Sure,
Danish.
sure.
Yeah,
Right.
Danish, if I can just come in for a second on the same security point that we were discussing, I think this, so one thing that, Dr. Chaudhary is also talking and Kapil also spoke about, and these are all security aspect when we are looking at a standalone security. So, whether it is contactless check-in into the hotel and the security of the customers who are coming in from a data point of view. I think we also try to now really take it to another level of saying that in a hotel industry, for example, there are multiple devices, multiple data points, and multiple security points. How do we integrate that as a platform, which can be multi-tenanted, which means that I provide a platform and say there are security for contactless services and food security and different kinds of security. How do they kind of converge at one platform from a security point of view? I think that's another discussion that that one is really having, and that's a very interesting space to watch as well. I thought I'll just land that since we're talking of security, because that is one of the big concerns. I mean, and the larger enterprises are very well aware of this, whereas the smaller ones are still trying to to understand the importance of this.
Sure. So we talked about IoT as technology for various verticals, like in Kapil's company, he talked about IoT, and Dr. Chaudhary also spoke about the IoT. For Vodafone Idea, for instance, is IoT a growing trend? Are you seeing more verticals adopting the technology and developing use cases around it? And is there a platform that the company has developed to cater to the needs of the enterprise customers, or not just the large ones, but the MSMEs as well? If you could brief us about the IoT opportunity in the country for telcos, and what sort of innovations are happening with which telcos are leading in the country.
Yeah, I mean, a very interesting topic, and one can really speak on this for some time, because IoT and cloud, I'll say, okay, from our point of view, whether from Vodafone Idea point of view, is clearly a focus area, and we are heavily invested into IoT, and I can clearly say that we are probably at least 3 to 4 quarters ahead of anybody else in the country, from the enterprise grade IoT solutions that we offer, whether it is in the space of a utility, whether it is in a meter reading space, or whether it is in a connected car that I spoke about, or the agri part of it, or the automotive part of it. So, there's a big tractor manufacturing company, and these are all very different, unique cases. A very small unique use case is where somebody is kind of giving the bikes on rent, and how do you really track that? And that's a big business, and person is really gaining. The one that I will really want to talk about is Yulu Bikes, which is basically in Pune, and they use this technology very extensively on their bikes, which is basically for renting it out. And they are seeing a clear benefit of it. The other one is JCB, where they use this in the earth movers, and they are seeing a benefit of it. Most of the car manufacturers, you name it, whether it is Mahindra, whether it is Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, most of them, Tata Motors, are on a Vodafone Idea platform. So it's not really about the connectivity part of it. The second part, which is very important, where Vodafone Group is clearly one of the world leaders, and definitely a leader in the European market, where most of the cars are manufactured. And we are trying to do that even in India as we speak, with some of the large auto manufacturers, to see that how do we really do the entire process reengineering using the 4G ready technology. And for that, we don't need to wait for a 5G, and we can do it now. And we are in one of the spaces, and when we are in the very advanced talk, I can't take the name, but we are going to get onto the POC very soon on that. So those are very interesting fields that we are working on. The other part of the IoT, which probably will interest Kapil's area, is really looking at an industrial IoT, and we are looking at some of the other technologies, where how do we take it through a 2G or an NB-IoT, and those are some areas of discussion that we are into. So to answer your question, IoT clearly is a focus area, lots and lots of use cases there. The demand from a customer, from all set of customers, whether it is a smaller enterprise or it's a larger enterprise, is there. We're also going to kind of get into some of the interesting aspects probably, which we can share a little later on, how do we really take this IoT space moving from an enterprise to a consumer as well. And that's really an untouched area as we speak today. But that's another big opportunity that we are really working on. Yeah,
Hello?
Dhanesh?
Yeah. So I have a new question, and which is in continuation to your IoT topic, which you just spoke about. We also saw a lot of action on the LoRaWAN front, and on the other hand, telcos are focusing on narrowband IoT. So in terms of the technology to provide connectivity, which ecosystem do you think is most suitable for the country and the needs of various companies and various verticals? If you could just touch upon, and maybe if we see if that sets the context.
Yeah, I mean, see, to my mind, it's really not one size fits all. Okay, and that's the way I really look at it. If I were to look at the places where the coverage is there for us, I think the fallback, the device cost, and you have to look at the entire ecosystem. So it's really not about only the connectivity part. The moment you talk of an NB-IoT, or you talk of an NB-IoT with a fallback on a 4G, or an NB-IoT with a fallback on a 2G, the device costs jump significantly. So if you really look at the ecosystem, the entire ecosystem, I think it's a large space, and all the technologies will coexist. As we speak, we are giving it, we are offering the IoT solutions on a GSM, whether it is a 2G and a 4G. And we are also pretty actively looking at an NB-IoT. We are doing some testings, we've done some trial runs and all. So the way I will really look at it is, depending upon an NB-IoT, to my mind, is more suited for an industrial IoT kind of a setup. And that's where we will really look at. So to answer your question very simply, to say, saying that, whether only a GSM will work or only an NB-IoT will work, to my mind, it's a hybrid, that looking at the Indian context would work.
Sure. So, Mr. Payer, maybe if you would give some context from the global markets where you operate, and where 5G is also has been available commercially. Are enterprises developing more use cases around 5G technology? In Europe, I know that even enterprises are looking at buying spectrum to create their own networks. But are you seeing some increased action, especially after the pandemic and this whole digital transformation? One, journey has started, and secondly, to develop their own use cases for their own businesses, depending upon which area do they operate in.
Yes, absolutely. We need to be a little careful with 5G, because I think a lot of the use cases we are discussing can be already fulfilled with 4G, and 5G will be anyhow an evolution of 4G. For lots of, let's say, operational benefits, we shall not wait for 5G to be mature enough to start invest in it. For enterprises, we can really kickstart all this transformation with 4G wireless, and this is what we are seeing again with the segments I have mentioned: utilities, energy, transportation, industry 4.0, etc. So investment, yes, is I would say very significant from many actors. So of course the vendors like Nokia, we are of course fully motivated, but also telecom operators are really investing in these partnerships, like Vodafone, and a lot of industrial players who are really building the systems, and then you have the system integrators who are coming on top to put all the glue end to end. And this is happening in various forms. One example I can give, which is a little, I would say, seminal to us, is in Germany. You have this big automotive industry, manufacturing, etc. And we are investing together with an ecosystem of automotive manufacturers and other system players in a platform which is called Arena 2036. So by 2036, you mean the year 2036. So you understand that it's a sort of German thinking, sort of really mid-term, long-term investment to really drive the end-to-end ecosystem. So this is happening big time. also all the, I would say, transportation industry around mass transit, around mainline, which is evolving to 5G with FRMCS, is doing some very significant investment, sometimes with Nokia, by the way, for German railway, French railway, etc. So it's also a way, to make sure that the promise that we are based on the technology will really be economically sustainable. And because, like I said already, the cost of the device, etc., all this needs to be taken into account to really build the end-to-end case. So in terms of use cases, it's a little anecdotal, but you were talking automotive. We are with one of the Japanese car manufacturers. We are working on a use case which is pretty interesting, which is to have autonomous driving in the car park. Because from the, let's say, exit of the factory to the delivery, you have a huge car park with thousands of vehicles, and actually you have teams of hundreds of people really just maneuvering the vehicle. And just to automate this, it's not an easy task, but it's technology feasible, it's at hand, and then you can really, unfortunately, free a lot of people to do other things, and really bring a more effective service. And so this is this type of use cases we are looking at. And back maybe to the use case that was presented on the warehouses, I think it's pretty interesting, this discussion on security, because there are many aspects to look at it. And the way we designed our digital automation platform, I don't want to push products here, but it's just for thinking. And the way we have designed our digital automation platform is that you can have part of the operations which is on site, which is really at the premise of the enterprise. And of course, it is remote managed in the cloud, and you can operate it, of course, remotely, and to minimize the OPEX. But all the private data and applications can stay on site, so that you have really more privacy for the enterprise, and also so that you can have resiliency, so that if the backhaul link fails for some reasons, you still have operations of your own premise. So like I said, it's really a system approach that we need to take and look at this security aspect from an end-to-end perspective.
Sure. So before I take questions from our viewers, I have one last question for Mr. Abhijit. This is regarding building use cases and or building the enterprise business, and for that adopting a partner-led approach. So Abhijit, do you want to work with more partners, let's say in the IoT space, where devices are needed or certain solutions are needed? Or certain things are you building in-house, or you have taken processes in-house to build? So how is this partner-led approach is working out? And if there is an approach wherein you're developing various things in-house, if you could just give us sense.
Dennis, that's a very, very good question. And I think, and I probably touched upon that on saying that, our model is very, very clearly partner-led model. And I spoke about 6 or 7 things, say, whether it is an IoT or in a cloud. So if I take up an IoT, I said software, devices, connectivity, application, managed services, system integration. So there are a lot of these things. Now, as one telco, we need to we can't really put all the expertise in one group, and it will take some time. And our model is a very, very clear to make this into a partner place, where there are partners who can offer us a solution. So it's not necessary for me, like, Kapil was talking about, saying that, the device, the devices could be cheaper, but this, from a security point of view, this is a challenge. So our model very clearly is to give the options to the customers, depending upon what their need is. And to that, we are creating a very stable partner place, we call it, where there are partners, say, for devices, there are partners for application, there are partners for software, there are partners for consultancy, there are partners depending upon the need of the customers for system integration, there are partners for the network. So we are absolutely aligned to the thought of putting a partner ecosystem in place, and that's how we are trying to build this whole ecosystem.
Okay, sure. So before I take questions, I would like to thank Kapil because he has to rush to another meeting. Thank you, Kapil, for joining in today and for the perspective you have presented before all the panelists and the viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was a great. Thank you.
So I have questions already coming in. So one question is for Mr. Abhijit. Mr. Sandesh Sarang asks, what is the strategy for cloud for Vodafone Idea, since cloud and IoT is a big priority for enterprise business? I think you have touched upon on it. Maybe if you could summarize for the gentleman.
Yeah, so I think, I said cloud and IoT, two are the big pillars for our growth strategy. And in the cloud, one, our strategy is very clearly on the partnership. Second, there are two elements to cloud. One is where, as Vodafone, as an Idea, as an organization, we have what we call edge computing system. So there is a main cloud, and then there are partnerships that we do. So our strategy on a main cloud is very, very clear to offer whatever services we can offer on the edge cloud computing directly, because that's the core business that we are into. And just to touch upon that, we have, as we speak, 88 edge computing centers in India, which is by far the largest as far as any telcos are concerned. And then on top of that, to layer it with the partnership model, of the various cloud providers, as well as, customers and who need to move to a colo or to, get into a different data center. So it's a hybrid model. We will leverage our own strength of the network that we have, which is our core strength, and then to layer it on, we will put the partnership model on that.
Sure. The next question is for you as well, where the gentleman is asking, and then he's referring to your comment on telcos transforming into being technology companies, techcos. So do you see your business space overlapping with IT services to some extent?
Yeah, and yes, and I touched upon that because this is some space where the partnership will come in handy, and that's where I'm saying that a lot of these things that we are getting into is really not a traditional telco domain, but when we have to provide an end-to-end solution, and today when an enterprise is looking to partner with you, they need a one-stop shop where they can try and get everything from one stop, and for that, when we say that we are moving from a telco to a techco, we need to integrate all these partners along with us. So IT clearly is one part of it, but we will again, and we are already doing it rather, doing it with one of the larger system integrators in the company.
Sure. So the next question is for Mr. Pear, and the gentleman asks, he wants to understand about the opportunity or the business for Nokia in India in terms of the enterprise and government business. If you could give a sense, which are the verticals you see are fairly active in terms of adopting technologies provided by companies like Nokia and telecom operators or joint exercise, as a part of joint exercise. If you could give a sense in terms of Indian context.
Yeah, being a little humble, because I am global in Nokia, so I may apologize if I don't have a very, very detailed view. By the way, I would like to spend more time in India when times are more normal. So in terms of business for Nokia enterprise in India, for sure it's around networking in IP, in SD-WAN, so this type of overlay connectivity, and it's now more and more around wireless for enterprise, which is with telco partners, because you don't have in India, like in some places in Europe, frequencies and spectrum which is allocated directly to enterprise. So the India model is to really develop private wireless through the spectrum of the telco operators, like Vodafone, and we absolutely respect this model, which is a good model. There are other models, like in Europe, you have dedicated spectrum for enterprise. In US, you have CBRS, which is a spectrum which can also be used locally by enterprise, etc. So the Indian model is really pushing us, and we like it, to work very, very tightly with telcos. Exactly like said by Abhijit, the use cases in partnership with the telcos and with some local players. And so our first cases are around transportation, airports, ports, energy, utility network, renewable. So we are developing those use cases while we speak with some partners in India.
Sure. So the next question is for Abhijit only. Meenakshi Sundaran has a question. She asked, do you feel Indian telecom operators are getting full support from the back end from companies like tower companies or fiber companies, considering the environmental challenges in rolling out networks? And does that affect your enterprise business and use cases for companies working in hospitality domain? When we discuss the challenges faced by hospitality domain or the supply chain and logistics domain, if you could just give a sense on the challenges in terms of network rollout.
I mean, see, those challenges are pretty standard business challenges which are there. So this is not very specific to the hospitality industry or so. But I don't think, there are challenges which we are not able to take care of. I think, we are in a position to roll out sites. We are rolling out. So we have the massive deployment of a massive MIMO, which is a 5D technology. We have the 12,000 odd massive MIMO. So we keep deploying, whether it is fiber, whether it is the sites, and we roll out sites through our partners. So we don't roll out sites directly. But I don't see that to be a big challenge for us, unless until there's a specific places where we have challenges, which is a very business as usual challenge, I would say.
Sure. So Dr. Chaudhary, I have a question for you from Mr. Tarun. He talks about how is this hospitality sector is planning to utilize technology and telecom to bounce back to growth. We have seen that hospitality is among the most impacted sectors in the country and globally. So do you think that telecom and technology could play a role and help you somewhat overcome the challenges in the market?
Yes, definitely, because technology, especially if we talk about telecom in hotels, it is like an oxygen for hotel, connecting our guest, measuring the guest services, and improving those services actually, because when the guest is staying with us, he is staying with us for 24 hours, 48 hours, maybe 3 days, 4 days. So what he is expecting is that continuity of the services. So when we talk about in-house guests, yes, telecom is playing a very big role. And when we talk about this pandemic situation, where we are definitely looking at telecom, which can provide us a collaborative convergent technology platform wherein we can actually utilize the data available and then create intelligence out of it. This is what we are looking for.
Sure. I think we have just hit the 1 hour time frame for this discussion. So on that note, I would like to conclude this session. And I would like to congratulate and thank you all the panelists for taking out time and offering insights into various verticals and telecom industry and the technology industry and companies like Nokia playing the part. And I would like to thank Abhijit, Dr. Chaudhary, Mr. Pear, and Kapil also, who dropped out because he had a meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for this insightful session, and we hope that technology and telecom is going to play a crucial role, not just for telecom operators and consumers like me, but enterprises as well, helping everyone in the ecosystem. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in today.
Thanks, Danish.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Danish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The world of today is a world full of places where things and ideas are off to the races. Places where humans put brains in machines while driving on data from sensors and screens. Where things are so smart they can talk to the sky or help us react in the blink of an eye. And sometimes those things will venture off track, so you'll need smart solutions to get it all back. Which place will you go? What stuff will you need? What will you want more of? The span or the speed? Or maybe the savvy to grow at great pace? Or maybe you'll want all of that in one place. So here you are standing smack in the middle of this mega colossal gargantuan riddle, with people and things all converging at once. But you are prepared and you are no dunce. Your head's in the cloud with oodles of room for all of the things that make all the things zoom. And over and under and coming and going is the nettiest network that keeps it all flowing. You'll never get stuck in the same sticky place, too big or too small or too slow to keep pace. Forging ahead freer than free, you'll have more connections than fish in the sea. Your vision intact, your connections connected, you're safer than safe, your protectors protected. Anywhere, anytime, anything, any place, all connected at once, running all in one race. With all of these places and all that you know, the question remains, are you ready to go? Go Allware, networking solutions for the new age of industry. Nokia.